going to call our City Council work session to order. Today is Monday, May 13, 2024. First on the order of the agenda is a presentation by Justin Hammers on Knoll Park Restoration Plan.
And Council, if I could take the opportunity to introduce a relatively new employee. I hate to have one come up that hasn't had a formal introduction. As you know, y'all funded a position that we call Park Ranger and Urban Forester that's going to have a concentration on Flying Creek Nature Preserve as well as other passive parks. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our Park Ranger Urban Forester, Justin Hammers. He has a degree from Mississippi State University in wildlife, fisheries, and aquaculture with a concentration on conservation law enforcement. And prior to coming to the city of Fairhope, he has served as Director of Outdoor Education and Aquatics for Easter Seals Camp Aska in beautiful Jackson Gap, Alabama. So it is my pleasure to introduce Justin and welcome him aboard. And he has just been just top flight since he's gotten here, and he's got a presentation to make to you. Thank you.
All right, well, it's good to see some of y'all again, and it's nice to finally meet you. Here I'm going to be talking about Knoll Park and a restoration project for it. And a little bit of background. Knoll Park was once a remnant of the Sandhill longleaf pine forest, and it was given to the city to remain just that. And a study was done in the late 2000s that showed that there was over 140 different species of trees, shrubs, and wildflowers throughout the park. And prescribed burning had been conducted throughout the years, but no long-lasting efforts have been made on restoring the park. And at one point, it was recorded that there were 0 pine trees under 50 years old within the park, and now they're slowly coming back. Some previous actions that had been done was in 2007, the Knoll Park Longleaf Pine Sandhill Restoration Project was initiated, and that started with a series of burns throughout the park. And after that, it indicated there was over 140 different species that were being identified in the park. And in 2013, David Dyson, an Alabama registered forester, wrote a management plan for Knoll Park. And it was a well-written plan, and I do intend on using the plan again. This is just a restoration project that I've started. I didn't want to redo the whole management plan because he had a well-written plan. In 2014, Espalier LLC, a landscape management company, developed a perimeter plan as a beautification project around the park, planting different plants around the perimeter. And it was burned again around 2019, 2020. I couldn't find exact dates on that one. And I also found that it was chemically treated in 2022 against invasive species. And then lastly, it was burned in July of 2023. Its current conditions, in 2013, it was reported that there were 200 longleafs and 6,600 hardwood saplings per acre within the park. Today, there were less than 50 young longleaf pine stands growing in the park, and all the pine stands, or the pine trees that were growing within the park were only around the perimeter. None of them were growing in the understory of the park, because it is now riddled with invasives and undesired species. Greenbriers, young hardwoods, and invasive grasses are now dominating the inside of the park. And while the pine reproduction is not at 0, other species are stunting the growth of the longleaf pine stand. And here we can see pictures in the early spring of what Knoll Park looks like. Hardwoods, invasive grasses, and undesired species are growing throughout the park's understory. And this is what the park looks like today. The vines and hardwood saplings are now dominating the understory, while on the right side you can see a couple of young longleaf pines growing along the perimeter. The goals of Knoll Park are to return it into a native sandhill longleaf pine stand, and this will be to increase the overall quality of its natural habitat while increasing the aesthetics of the park and hopefully the number of visitors the park receives annually. And here you can see a picture of what a native longleaf pine stand would look like. And through that, I have some objectives. And since the Knoll Park Restoration Project was established in 2007, various efforts have been made, but none have had any lasting results. Using efforts like clearing the understory of all invasives and undesired species, planting native warm season grasses that are commonly found in longleaf pine stands, and committing to a consistent management schedule of prescribed burns along with mechanical or chemical removal of any undesired species that may enter the park in the future. By being aggressive with restoration efforts, the park could be set on a path to success of becoming a sustainable longleaf pine stand. The first objective would be to clear out the understory of invasives and undesired species. Now, while in the late 2000s there was an abundance of native plants growing in the center of the park, today the park is dominated by invasives and undesired species. Removal of these species can help Knoll Park become a native sandhill longleaf pine stand once again. Forests that have neglected understories have a heavy litter layer and a dense brush throughout the understory. And with methods like prescribed burning, mulching, or herbicide application, it can help lead the pine stand towards natural sustainability. Mulching could help when the understory is too dense and it's been neglected for periods of time and when there's not enough fuel for a prescribed burn. And herbicide will help in targeting specific plants that may be too large to remove with burning, and it's typically paired with mulching to ensure regeneration of hardwoods does not occur. Prescribed burns are generally the least expensive and preferred method of understory management. Without regular fire, hardwoods and other species will outcompete in longleaf pine stands because longleaf pines need fire to help promote rejuvenation. Knoll Park has been burned several times before, but none of it was on a consistent management schedule, and that's what allowed other species to grow throughout the park. Mulching is typically going to be the more expensive and aggressive method of control. It can help when the understory is too dense and has been neglected for periods of times, and it can also be used when there's not enough fuel for a prescribed burn. It's typically sprayed with herbicides after mulching to treat stumps, and it's recommended to be done 6 to 12 months before planting. Herbicide applications will help with targeting specific plants that may be too large to remove from prescribed burns. And it's also paired with mulching to ensure regeneration does not occur. And it can also be used to kill off specific plants that may not die from fire. And it won't remove as many unwanted plants as quickly as other methods. The last method we could use would be the hack and squirt method. It's made by making a cut deep enough into an undesired species to kill off the tree without damaging any surrounding species. And you can use loppers to cut hardwoods or camphors under 3 inches to remove them entirely. It's less aggressive than mulching and affects less plants than foliar herbicide application, and it can help in management when there's not enough fuel for prescribed burns. The second objective would be to plant native warm season grasses throughout the park's understory. Native warm season grasses are common among pines and longleaf ecosystems, as the grasses will provide valuable cover and present forage opportunities for wildlife, and it provides fuel for prescribed burns and can be aesthetically pleasing. The roots of these grasses are thick and will grow deep into the soil, which will make for longer lasting, stress tolerant, and low maintenance plants. They also help with increased absorption of rain and will improve drainage rates. And here's a picture of some native warm season grasses and their root systems compared to non-native grasses. And then again, the picture of native warm season grasses growing within a longleaf pine stand. And the last objective would be to replace the ornamental perimeter throughout the park. In 2015, the perimeter plan was enacted with 25 native flowers and plants being placed around Knoll Park. Several of the original plants remain, and the ones that do not remain anymore will be replanted, and the irrigation that used to run around the perimeter of the park will be turned back on. And with adequate management, Knoll Park will be a must-stop destination next to downtown Fairhope. And you can see from 2015, after the perimeter plan was enacted, Knoll Park was growing beautifully, didn't have any invasives growing throughout it. So at one point, Knoll Park was on the right path. Here's a cost assessment of what everything would take. The plants that are listed in there are the ones that our horticulturist, Jamie Rollins, and I have hand-selected. These are plants that we think are aesthetically pleasing and some plants which survived the most. And the quantity for those plants was what we originally selected. So we were going to kind of redo that plan that we once enacted, and then the rest are rough estimates from searching. And along with cost, we've also looked into some possible grants for longleaf pine stands, and we were able to find 6, most of them being local from Alabama, but those are grants we could look into. And lastly, a implementation schedule. The timeline for this, while we could start this year, most of the planting that would need to be done can't begin until next year because of the window of the time to plant. And native warm season grasses will take about 2 years to grow. So this won't be an overnight project. It will take a couple years to see it in full force, but with following proper management tactics, we can have Knoll Park turned around to be the native pine stand that it once was. Are there any questions?
Got a question or a comment or two. First, Justin, thank you for the presentation. I think you kind of addressed it at the very beginning. We have a plan. We've had it sitting on a shelf
do.
probably for 10 or 12 years. We've got a good plan, but maybe we're missing that person to take ownership of it. So excited to see what you can do with this. And also, similar thoughts, plans on the Flying Creek Nature Preserve. Isn't there a section there that could be a longleaf pine stand as well?
Yes, I believe it's 10 acres that we
10
have a
acres.
longleaf pine stand on, and I've been working with a local forester for plans on that and next steps for it. And we've already burned there, and there's talks of getting mulching out there to remove some of the overgrown hardwoods out there as well.
I look forward to seeing all this come to fruition.
Justin, I appreciate that. A great presentation. I'm excited about cleaning up Knoll Park. I mean, it's been nice, it's been bad, it's been messy, it's been clean over the last, 15 years, but it really would be nice to be consistent with it. So thank you for that. I do want to pick on one thing, though. I haven't found a camphor tree under 3 inches yet that I can kill, but with loppers out there. I don't know. I mean, it takes like 20 applications of herbicide to kill those things.
Well, with this, you wouldn't use a mixture. You'd do the herbicide directly on it.
Okay. It said loppers, and I'm like,
Loppers with herbicide goes directly into the
Okay.
source. I believe it's less than an ounce of herbicide needed to kill
Okay,
a
good.
tree.
Good. I can't stand those plants.
Yes, there's
That's the
a-
popcorn?
Well, no, that's a tallow
Oh, you're
tree.
talking about the camphor.
The camphor
Oh,
tree
There's
is
a-
every bit as invasive and I think harder to kill.
There's a camphor tree that lives across the street that's probably several decades old that just keeps dropping seeds on it. It's on private property, so there's not much we can do about it.
Right.
But
They're highly invasive. They're really invasive
Yes.
at the nature preserve.
yes, but that's why I would like to plant native warm season grasses, because their roots grow so deep and will help prevent outside species from growing in.
From killing them. Good.
And with where Knoll Park is located, it's hard for grasses to naturally come into it with all the neighborhoods being around. So while burning did have effect, I'd like to start aggressive on Knoll Park.
Yeah. Thank you, Justin, for all the work you've done. I'm looking back in some of the notes. There was a Knoll Park committee. Do we
Yes.
do you have those people in your presence?
No, sir.
Some of them are still here, but they're not.
They're
Yes.
not.
From-
Okay.
From what I remember reading, it existed for a couple months and then
It dissipated?
disbanded. Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Well, all right, so you're all on your own. You probably like it that way, huh?
A little bit.
Honesty is the best policy, but yeah, thank you for all that you've done. I think this is going to be a great project. I think it's going to benefit the community exceptionally well. So this is something that's been, as you see, in the books for a long time.
Yes,
It's
sir.
a common theme around here. This administration is starting to dust off a lot of books and come back to it, but I guess that's government. In my naivety. But thank you for doing this, and great job. I'm looking forward to seeing what it's going to look like. And it only costs $8,000. That's impressive, sir.
That's from a general search. But I will be
Okay,
looking
I'm just
into-
There was no labor added.
There was no,
No,
yeah,
no.
yeah, okay. all
That's
right.
just rough estimates, but I've also looked into different grants we could pick up for it.
I like that part, too. All right, thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay. Next on the agenda is a discussion of the City of Fairhope Employee Personnel Handbook Revision of 2024.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ms. Hannah.
So I am going to just touch on some of the bigger items within the handbook. Most of these are going to have to do with pay or benefits such as vacation or holidays. The bulk of the changes are really compliance and regulatory based, so just stuff to kind of get us in line. Let's see, so really kind of the first major change within the book is regarding wage and salary administration. So something that's not clearly stated currently is that the mayor essentially has the final authority over the offer rate for newly hired employees. That's been our practice, so we're maintaining consistency there. It's just putting it in writing for everybody. Also adding in there that the council has the final authority for appointed employees to set their salary. Again, our current practice, so just ensuring consistency. The next big change is going to be regarding accrual of compensatory time. So we are increasing the limit to 64 hours for our general government and utility employees, and increasing the limit to 96 hours for our law enforcement and other public safety employees who work those 12-hour shifts. The next big one is revisions to our on-call and standby policy. So this is kind of separating into two groups. One group, which would be standby, so those are our utility employees who, and some public works, IT, for example, who need to be available after hours and on weekends in the event there is a certain emergency. So their current pay structure would stay the same. But then we're separating out on-call employees. So for example, that would be your customer service, if they need to come in and take field calls during a weather emergency, for example. Magistrates, this would set a $100 per week per diem, if you will, and then allow them to be paid after hours if they are taking calls and having to come into work. This portion would not go into effect until October 1st of the next fiscal year, FY25. And I think Mayor has numbers on that if you want to dive into those, she would be the best person to talk to about those. Let's see. The next big change, and this is an addition to the handbook, is additional pay during weather emergencies. So the primary purpose of outlining this is to make sure that we have a written policy in place so that when we request reimbursement from FEMA, whether it is our own post-storm cleanup or providing mutual aid, FEMA will reimburse us for whatever funds are expended, whether that's matching another agency's pay policy if we're sending out, or if we have our own post-storm cleanup. So that's also adding premium pay to our own employees if they are working post-storm in Fairhope, just an incentive for them to come on, be here all night over the weekend when they should be home or could be home with their families. But this would all be reimbursable by FEMA because it is spelled out in a written policy. So it would be expensive up front, but we would have the reimbursement later on down the road. Next big change is regarding promotions. It is setting a pay structure so that when an employee advances from one grade into a higher grade, it gives us some guidelines as far as what their new pay rate would be. So it's setting that the pay would increase by anywhere from 5 to 10% above the current rate of pay, or it would put them in the minimum of the new grade, whichever is higher. So in order for us to practice within our classification plan, we have to pay people between the minimum and the midpoint or maximum of the grade. So if that 5 or 10% does not put them in that range, then they would get the bump up to the minimum. This would just ensure that there's consistent pay practices when it comes to promotions. It's also defining that a transfer is a lateral move between two classifications which are in the same grade. So generally that move would not come with additional pay. Both of those policies, the promotion and the transfer, come with an exception that if the mayor and treasury warranted and it's within budget, that we could make an exception to that. But it's giving us some general guidelines so that we can have some structure to our movement with our own employees. The next one is regarding temporary assignments. So this is in the event we've got a vacancy for an extended period of time, say it's a position in leadership or supervisory role, and we feel like we need someone to fill it because the vacancy is so long, we would allow a temporary pay increase for an employee who's assigned to fill that role. However, their pay would revert back to the previous pay if they were in the interim role. In holidays, we are doing a couple different things in this number. The first is giving an opportunity for employees to opt out of taking Mardi Gras Day as a holiday, thus losing any overtime they might have incurred by working parades or balls here at the Civic Center. It gives some structure to that, meaning they have to request that substitution. They have to use the holiday at a later point in time, but within 6 months, and sets an approval process for that request to go through. In vacation, We're changing it so that a new employee may be able to start using any accrued vacation after completion of their 6-month probationary period, rather than waiting 12 months to use vacation. This is something that will just make us more competitive in the job market, which is really important right now. We've also added a new accrual rate for employees who are at 6 to 10 years of employment. This is a pretty key time in an employee's tenure with the city and a retention tool. So that is saying that after completing 6 years of employment, then they would start accruing vacation at a slightly higher rate, so more time off for them. Also in vacation, we're establishing a quarterly buyback option. So there's some guidelines in this one as well. But essentially, it gives opportunities for employees to buy back up to about a week of their vacation, so long as they've used some vacation and maintained some vacation in their accrual bank. A lot of employees don't take time off. Staffing shortages, for example, cause some of that. So rather than them losing that vacation time, it's an opportunity for them to buy it back. Even though we've set it to, I guess, be available quarterly, an employee can only do it once per 12 months. So they can't sell it back every quarter. They can only sell it back once every 12 months. And then within the sick leave policy, it's just giving some guidelines, stuff that we're currently practicing, but just tightening up. For example, requirements for use, giving a 30-minute notice period at minimum if you need to take time off for that day. And then just requirements for extended use when an employee is under FMLA. So those are the changes that really have to do the most with employee pay or benefits. There's a lot of other changes, but like I said, most of those have to do more with getting us into compliance as far as like EEOC or compliance in regards to our health insurance plan. So welcome any questions you have.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm going to start off with saying thank you to you, Hannah, and your team for all the work you guys have done. I know the amount of time that you guys have put into this, to the directors, the leaders, your committees that the mayor put together to go through all of these things. So touche to you guys, and God bless you for doing this, cleaning this up. That's something that needs to be done since about 2015, so we got it done. So God bless you, and thank you. Council, do y'all have any questions for Ms. Hannah?
Hannah, I don't have any questions. I have a couple of comments. One in particular on vacation leave. I think the city's about 1,000 years behind on how we do that. And, allowing them to use leave 6 months is certainly better than waiting a year, but I just don't know why in the world we don't have an accrual that you get so many hours every 2 weeks like the whole rest of the universe. And then you can use it. If you earn it in your first 2 weeks of work and you want to take it, you've been there 4 weeks or 6 weeks, you want to use every little hour you've gained, why not? And then then they also accrue over whatever, 120 hours, 200 hours, I've seen it all numbers, 240 hours. They have to be paid that instead of carrying that to infinity. And just at the end of the year, if they've got 260 hours and they can't accrue but 240, they get a check for 20 hours. And it also keeps the cost down. They may have earned that at $15 an hour, and then we pay it out at $30 an hour. It's not good business. So I've been saying this since I got on the council,
Yeah.
and I just think the way we do it is archaic.
There's a couple different ways to look at it, and I think kind of the first point to that, as far as allowing an employee to use it after 2 weeks of being here. Currently, the city offers the compensatory time. So right now, an employee who is within that 6 months or 12 months and doesn't have vacation available to them, oftentimes they'll build up that comp time bank and use that as time off. So that is kind of our loophole to that answer. But I understand your point of view on that. And it is a little bit archaic, and at the same time, we do also have to kind of protect the city and make sure that our new employees are getting time with learning and working in a new role in a new organization. And so I think that maybe over time could definitely be something that we modernize. We're transitioning into a new timekeeping system and
Wouldn't the
updating
supervisor have
accruals.
to give them permission to take the time off?
Oh, yeah.
though? And so,
Yeah.
I mean, they may say, look, you've only been here 3 months, you can't take a week off. I mean, they wouldn't have a week's
Sure.
vacation in that amount of time anyway, but still, if they've earned it, I think they should use it, and it's up to their supervisor to say. Anyway, just my thoughts for the last 12 years sitting here, it just seems to never change.
Okay. Yeah, I will. Also, Jeannie from our Personnel Board is here. So we have been meeting, I think, since I started in October about the handbook. So if y'all do have questions for them on their perspective, she could answer those as well. So,
Jeannie, do you have anything to say?
I just want to say they've done such a great job.
Yeah.
They've literally spent months putting this together.
Yeah.
Got leaders throughout the city to work on it as well. We've read it, we've looked at it for the last 4 months, providing revisions. So the work going on into this has been very impressive.
Yes. Yeah. Councilman
I
Quinn?
mean, I appreciate all the hard work to get it together. I think I probably agree with Councilman Burrell on just kind of vacation, sick leave, all of that. Maybe that's something we need to pull out separately and look at as a sub-policy. I wouldn't want to slow down the progress you guys have made to date right now to get it fixed necessarily before approving the changes. But I do think that we do things in a little bit of an outdated format, at least compared to where I work.
What we have to consider too is the RSA.
Gotcha.
Training stuff, so that's something that we have to consider this time.
Yes.
We need to figure out how we do it.
Yes. So, yeah, I don't know our cap on sick time off the top of my head, but
960 is what you can. Sorry, I was just saying that when we start looking at that, something else we have to consider is y'all passed a resolution allowing employees to contribute their
960.
sick time to service credit for RSA. So that's another reason the employees like to accrue that sick time is because they can actually apply it to service credit. You also, I know that you were mentioning they leave the city with a check for their sick time up to 960 hours, and it is paid out at the rate that they're making the day they retire. But that is also another benefit to the employee, so that's something that we would want to consider if we ever if we started looking at making a change.
And Mayor, you just understand that all the comments I made were strictly related to vacation. I mean, sick is a whole nother discussion. I'm only talking about vacation time.
So you're not saying doing all of PTO, just vacation?
That's an entirely different discussion, yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Hannah.
Yeah,
I think you
thank you.
did a good job with all of it. And I really like the bereavement thing as well. So that was a good little
Thank you.
nugget in there. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, next on the discussion is a schedule of fees for construction and building permits.
Thank you, Council. One of the things about our permit fee ordinance, this is what we use to set amounts for charging all of the permits and all of the plan review fees and everything that we do. The impact fee ordinance is totally separate, so this does not affect that, and you will be seeing that, a revision to the impact fee ordinance probably within the next month or so. I'm waiting to get word back from Tischler Bice on their review. So you know, I've gotten a couple calls today. We are not raising permit fees. Our permit fees are very competitive with other cities. There were some fees, though, and some different trades that had not been captured in the original fee schedule. So if you look at what I gave you, the changes that we put in are outlined in red. So you'll know everything else is from the original schedule. The plan review fees, the reason we wanted to change that is we are having, for the last 6 months, just a bunch of instances where builders are submitting plans. We're spending weeks reviewing them, we're going over them, and then we get a notice from the builder, oh, by the way, we're not building that house. And so they turn in an entirely new set of plans that we've got to turn around and re-review. Currently, we do not have a fee for that time that between the planning department and public works and everybody else that looks at them, there's no fee for that. And so we're having to scrap what we spent weeks doing and turn around and do it again. So this is kind of in line with what I checked with a lot of the other jurisdictions. They also have a re-review fee, and that's not uncommon, so that's something we did want to add. We did not have anything capturing cost for installation of suppression hoods or sprinkler systems. That was something that, at the time was just not, we were doing the inspections, we were reviewing it, we were having it, but a lot of times we're getting standalone projects where someone's coming in at a later date and they're wanting to put in a sprinkler system. There's no way that we did not have anything in the schedule to actually determine what that fee was going to be. Under the gas ordinance, there were recent ordinances through the gas department and through the right-of-way ordinance where they established their own fees within their ordinance. And those have to, especially like the right-of-ways, when those go to our right-of-way supervisor to be reviewed, they have to review the fee schedule and give us that fee. So we wanted to make sure that we referenced those ordinances in there because it's kind of hard to attach. There's a lot of factors that involved in calculating those fees, so we felt it was better just to actually reference the ordinance. A couple of the main reasons we did it, if you look on the convenience fee, we needed to put that because we're getting a lot of credit card charges, and I know Councilman Burrell, you've brought it up in the past that, we did not have anything in our ordinance to capture a convenience fee. And so that was something that we have had to budget every year, an amount in the budget to determine or to capture those convenience fees that are coming in on the credit cards that the city has actually been doing. So this now puts them on notice that whoever the vendor is that's processing the credit card charge may charge them a convenience fee if that's their policy. The one I really want to talk to y'all about was the section on the waiver of permit fees. As it stands right now, council has the authority to waive permit fees. That is not something that we have really done except when we got into a natural disaster. Right after Sally, we had a discussion about it. And, at that point, folks are trying to get their lives put back together again. And there was a short-term waiver of roofing fees. They had to get a permit so we could track it. But there was a waiver of fees, when people are trying to recover from, a traumatic situation. But the other thing that we're running into are public infrastructure projects by private entities that are not covered in the ordinance, such as Single Tax is doing a park out on Fairhope Avenue. They do sidewalks all over the place. We have other things like that where it is privately done, but it is for public infrastructure that is given to the city. That's something I think, they're doing that for the benefit of our citizens, and I think that's something that we would want to take a look at and have the ability, instead of having to come before council and go through, the time frame that it takes to get on an agenda, to discuss it, and then have you make that decision, something that can be handled administratively while we are reviewing those projects. One of the other things that happens is we do get philanthropic groups that come in, Habitat, Ecumenical Ministries. They do these things to help people fix, repair, or build houses. I don't know if you're familiar with the HARP program, the Housing Rehabilitation Program. We have 2 HARP houses going up on Young Street. We've gotten the permit fees for it. That's state grants that they are coming in and building new homes for families in need. Those kind of things that come in periodically, that during the review process we look at, we would like for you to consider allowing us to meet with the mayor and talk about what the issues are, what these specific projects are, and be able to help, those that are in need, those that are recovering from a disaster, anybody who's investing in the infrastructure of our city. I think those are things that would warrant consideration on their permit fees. If you noticed on the nonprofits, we listed it as 501c3 that are non-discriminatory, non-political in nature, that are performing work for citizens in need and that will not be offered for sale. That was language that, I did a lot of research on other jurisdictions that do this, and that was pretty common language. It kind of really clearly defines what those projects are, and hopefully that's going to be wording that you're comfortable with.
Let me stop you right there.
Yes, sir.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Council President?
Yes.
Let's say that FEEP is renovating the portions of the K-1 Center, and it's a big project.
Okay?
And don't you have to review those plans?
We do.
And inspect that property?
Yes, sir.
I mean, and if it's a sizable project, if you have a nonprofit that has a very sizable project, it takes quite a bit of your time, and we're not compensated for that, do you? I could see, that we got a lot going on.
No,
here.
I do. I
And
see what you're talking
So
about.
there's instances where it's gonna take a tremendous amount of your time.
I get it.
I don't
yeah.
know.
No, that's a good point. You know, one of the things we can do, that when we wrote this, what was in my mind were the residential projects where we have citizens that have limited means, that are trying to have things done for improvement of their property, to fix houses that are, you know, in bad condition. If you want, it may be more
Just wondering if it
appropriate
could be
to
a
look
little
at it as
fine.
residential.
But
Yeah.
the church is a nonprofit.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
But
You get a mega church that comes in here, and they're gonna say it's for the citizens of Fairhope, it's open to everybody.
Okay.
And they've got
Okay.
500,000
Yeah.
square feet.
Fair enough, fair enough. If you would like, if
Yes.
that's something that you would like stricken, I can do that. That's why we're here at the work session, to
right,
get your
exactly.
Well-
thoughts.
Exactly.
But if it's something you would like to tighten up and possibly
And I
more
don't,
clearly
I'm not even thinking of
define.
every example, there was just a couple of
Sure.
examples I could think of, so I think that might wanna be tightened up.
Okay, fair enough. Yes, ma'am.
No, sorry. Can you keep like, if we were to do this, can we keep a running tally of, like, if fees are waived administratively, like, at least for a year, kind of keep that number?
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
maybe then we set a not to exceed.
Maybe a not to exceed or
Yeah.
something, I mean, you don't be too generic and say of, you know, say a little significance.
So-
Well, what you
Somehow,
can,
yeah.
the easiest thing, if you really want
Quantify
to,
it.
the people that I think, that we're in my mind trying to target are residential projects, single-family residential. Those are the ones where I think that, you know, they're probably the folks that are in the greatest need. They're probably the most financially limited to be able to take care of some of these things.
Yeah.
Let me redraft it, and let's take a look at it.
So-
But your example of single tax is a great example too, though. So public, I
Yeah,
mean, so.
sidewalks,
you know,
parks, stuff like
right.
that. I mean, they're.
So maybe if it's a public infrastructure, truly public, that would be handed to the city, that
Yes,
speaks
sir.
for itself.
Yes, sir.
And
Yeah.
you would have to be specific. I mean, this thing would have to really, because, you know, unfortunately, people try to take advantage.
Yeah.
We've
Oh,
talked about
you
this,
know.
Councilman.
We have
some
our hands tied, and I'm
Yeah,
telling you.
and you'll have us in a pickle, man.
no, I
You know what I'm
feel
saying?
that.
So, you know, so for example, just what came off the top of my head,
Yes,
just
sir.
being devil's advocate. Let's say Habitat for Humanity came down and our citizens decided that we found a piece of property, they want to build 100 homes.
Okay.
You understand? See, so now you're looking at a major project that's humanitarian, but that scope of work and that amount of permitting is huge, you know?
Okay.
So we would have to really, I love your heart. I'm with you, brother. I mean, God bless you, but we would have to really get defined in these, in order to narrow it down and be very particular about what we will and will not do. Otherwise, we can get used and abused.
Well, the other option is, right now, it has to come to you. So if we want to just list public infrastructure projects that are donated to the city and leave it there, and you want to review anybody else who wants to make that request, I mean, we can do that.
Yeah.
That's kind of the process now per our ordinance. So this was just an opportunity to try to do some things administratively, because, you know, as you know, the timeframe of submitting, getting on an agenda, things like that sometimes takes a little while, and it can delay some projects. So we can look at that. We can take that out, and if we want to do something different later, then we can. That's not a problem.
I mean, we can also think about, you know, we have the power to, I believe we do, we have the power to legislate differently in certain situations. And it may be something that policy can be changed.
Sure.
In order, in those situations, once you bring it to us, that we could expedite things, you know.
And I still think maybe a not to exceed, because, I mean,
Yeah,
if
of
you do a
course.
permit on a
mean-
single-family residence, I mean, just a generic number.
Sure.
I mean, and we don't probably do any more, maybe less than 5 houses a year. You could set a number not to exceed. That way, if
Right.
Habitat or somebody like that did come in, you could say, I'm sorry, the budget's already been used up on that.
Right.
So, I mean, that may be a way to handle it.
Yeah, that other one I just thought of too is if Thomas Hospital Foundation decides to put on a $40 million addition to the hospital, you're gonna be busy for
Yeah, but they're
Yeah.
not a nonprofit, by the way.
But
They are.
Thomas
No, they're
Hospital
not.
Foundation.
They-
is.
they-
The
well, I'll say
foundation,
this.
they go under the
Thomas Hospital
foundation, which is
Foundation.
IHS.
I can say we have never not accepted a permit fee from Thomas Hospital.
Right, yeah.
So.
But just hypotheticals.
Understood.
Yeah.
A couple other quick things, and get done quick, I know you've got a busy agenda. One of the things, beginning work without permits, I cannot tell you how many stop work orders, how many shutdowns that we have where projects are started without permits. I walked through a gutted house today, and, well, I'm an owner, I didn't know that. Well, yeah, you do. So, putting some things in there where we can handle some things administratively. Now, my policy is I do not want to get heavy-handed with our citizens because a lot of them don't know the process. There is no excuse for a contractor not to know the process. This is what they do for a living. So that's kind of the circumstances we deal with. And then filing incorrect subcontractors, that is a legal document when you do a building permit. If you put the wrong sub on there and we have a problem, that other sub that was not the one who did the work is the one who is at risk with their state license. So we would like to discourage that by letting them know that there's a fee or there will be a fine if you do that knowingly. And then the refund policy is the big one. That's probably the main reason we rewrote it, is in order to be able to take ACH checks electronically, the vendors that we use require a refund policy. We had never really established a refund policy in any of our ordinances. So this will then, by having this codified, it will give us an opportunity to be able to do that. You know, I have a lot of builders who love to spend $50,000 on a permit fee because that is like crazy miles on your credit card. But I also have a lot of others that would prefer to pay with a check. So, you know, that will give us the flexibility to be able to do that. And that's one of the major points of doing this, is being able to take the electronic checks, but we couldn't do it without a refund policy. Okay? I will look at it again. I'll get with the mayor and we'll look at the information on the nonprofits. And if it's something you're not comfortable with, I can just strike it entirely. That was just, you know, it's just come up with single tax and it's come up with some other things and just, you know, something we thought would be worth considering.
Yeah, no, I don't, I'm speaking for myself. I can't speak for the rest of the council, but I think it's a genuine idea as far as humanitarian is concerned, and I think there's a place for that. But I just think that we have to get it right and make sure that we dot our I's and cross our T's, that's all.
No problem.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? You have anything?
Good thoughts, and thank you.
Thank you.
Good discussion.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Next on the agenda is our fiscal year 2023 audit review by Warren Averett.
Oh, she's smiling, so.
Yes, so Warren Avers here to go over our audit.
How are y'all tonight?
Doing well, sir.
Good.
Each of you should have 3 packets in front of you. One has got some tabs on it. It's got a copy of the PDF copy of the handout presentation we're about to go through. And then it's got 2 other letters that we're going to discuss later. You've got the larger of the 3 is the actual financial audit, and then the smaller one of the 3 was the single audit, the compliance audit.
Be a written test on this one tomorrow.
I've been there, done that.
In consideration of time, I'm gonna go through this pretty quickly, so if there's anything that I miss and y'all wanna dive in, let me know. Just a quick snapshot of the team members. My name is Lee Parks. My colleague is Rick Blanton.
Good to see y'all again.
Yes, sir. Good to see you. We have several people who aren't, that work on the engagement that aren't here. As you see, we have Priya Pirani and Colby Blackburn are kind of the associates. Jennifer Williams serves works on the single audit team as well. And then we have a IT group, Scott Pruitt, who does the IT portion of the review. And then Carol Phillips serves as our quality control. This is just a copy of our peer review. We're required to present this to you. We participated in the peer review process, and we received a pass rating, which is like the equivalent of a clean or unmodified opinion. So What we're going to discuss now is going to be in the financial audit, which is the larger of these. And on page 1, you'll see this is what's the auditor's report, and this is the opinion. So the city received an unmodified opinion, which is the clean opinion. The report was dated March 8th, 2024. One thing to note, last year, the report date was March 28th. So we were about a full 3 weeks ahead of the schedule this year. And that's just a testament of Kim's hard work and her team helping. All right, just some quick overview of some things. You'll see that total assets were roughly $307 million. Total liabilities were $57 million, and the net position was $249 million. Capital assets, I'm just going to hit the ones that jump out significantly. You'll see capital assets total of $213 million. This is up about $24 million from the previous year. Governmental funds had roughly $10 million of capital additions. Enterprise funds added about $23.4 million. The majority of this is the water and sewer improvements that were incurred in 2023. And then you had depreciation during the current year of $8 million. So those all resulted in that $23.7 million swing. The deferred outflows of resources were $10.9 million, and this was up. This was up approximately $5.4 million. So the deferred outflows and deferred inflows basically are comprised of that's what impacts the pension and the OPEB. And so we'll go into that a little bit more detail, but basically that's the city gets an actuarial report on their OPEB, and then the RSA provides a report for the pension, and the city just has to adjust accordingly. So these fluctuate each year depending on what those balances are on the liability side.
The markets have a big driver.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And the
mortality
actuarial
rates and,
assumptions, they change every now and then.
So many factors that go into that.
All right, on the next slide, you'll see accounts payable totaled about $9.2 million, and this is up approximately $3.5 million. And the biggest change on that is the several accounts payable items related to the water and sewer improvements that had incurred at close to year end. You'll see notes payable totaled $1.6 million. That was down approximately $1 million from the previous year, and that's just a result of the current year debt service. Same with direct placement totaling $7.8 million. That was down $1.7 million, and that's just the current year payment of debt and no new debt issued. As I mentioned, the OPEB, which is the other post-employment benefit, that liability was roughly $5 million, and it was down approximately $5 million from the previous year. Pension liability, however, totaled $20 million, and that was up approximately $10 million. And like I said, this is just based on the RSA calculations that they provide. And then the deferred outflows of 5.2 is a decrease of approximately $5 million, and that's, like I said, the deferred outflows, deferred inflows, and the pension and OPEB liability all kind of work together. This slide shows a breakdown of your government-wide statement of net position. The largest component of net position is in net investment in capital assets, which totaled approximately $204 million. You had $4.5 million of restricted net position, and that's external third-party restrictions. Approximately $3.3 million of that's restricted for debt service, and $1.1 million for roads and capital improvements, and then the rest is just some other miscellaneous stuff. And then your third component is unrestricted, which totaled $40.7 million. So now we're going to switch over just to the governmental funds when we're going to look at the revenue side. So this is at the fund level. As you can see, both property tax and sales tax increased roughly $1 million. And that's just kind of across the board. Nothing major that jumped out. As you can see, lodging and other taxes stayed consistent. Same with license and permits, intergovernmental charge services, and Really, the only one that jumped out was the other, which totaled about 4.9 million. This is up about 1.4 million. And the main driver here was just the increase in interest rates and the amount of cash that the city had on hand. On the expense side, there was nothing really major as far as changes, with the exception of capital outlay. On government, on fund level, when a city purchases a fixed asset, that gets recorded as a capital outlay at the fund level. So capital outlay was 9.6 million, which is up about 3.2 million from the previous year. And really the major components there are the Bratz Hub and the Founders Track renovations that occurred.
On the revenue, the slide right before y'all, one thing to point out is that the city also had moved a good bit of their funding into higher interest rate
That's right.
areas. So they got the benefit of the full year of those increased interest rates, whereas many municipalities didn't do that quite so quickly. So kudos to the team for recognizing the opportunity there to earn the interest on the front end. That was a more sizable hit than some of our municipal clients
Oh, yeah.
took. So,
Good point.
Or not hit, I should say.
Benefit.
Home run.
Yeah.
Their advantage. Nicely done.
So next, we're going to kind of look at the utility funds, which comprise of the proprietary funds. Electric was up 2.4 million, totaling 22.3 million. Gas was down 1.4 million, or 8.8 million, and this had to do with not only lower temperatures from the previous year, we had that cold snap in December of 21, and then also the reduction in rates during the current year in relationship to the decrease in the gas prices. Water and wastewater revenue, however, was 18.5 million. It was up about 3 million from the previous year, and that's directly related to the increase in sewer rates that incurred during the current year. And as you can see, sanitation was relatively flat. On the expense side, electric was up approximately 2.2 million. Some of that had to do with the increase in the revenue related to the electric purchases. Natural gas was down 800,000, as mentioned by the reduction in the gas prices. And then water and wastewater was up 1 million, and that was just coincides with the increase in the sales. And as I mentioned, sanitation was relatively flat. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Rick, who's going to talk about the single audit, which is included in the smaller section right here.
Yeah, so to echo Lee, thank you for having us. So Lee just talked through a 104-page financial audit report. To give you some comparison, this one's 10 pages, so it won't take us very long. So the single audit is required of any entity that expends more than $750,000 of federal funds in a given year. The city certainly did that. The first page, that slide that we're all looking at on the slide, it speaks to page 6 it speaks to the first 5 pages, which is the opinion over financial reporting and control. That's another opinion of ours. The opinions are the only things that belong to us in any of these reports. And the opinion over compliance with the uniform guidance. Each and every grant has one of 14 compliance requirements that the federal government says that you have to meet and match on every aspect to do what they want you to do with the money. And with respect to the major program for the city of Fairhope, that all the compliance uniform guidance were ticked off and worked good. So the last bullet point there speaks to page 6 of this report. The city of Fairhope expended $2.4 million of federal funding in the current year. That's down about 2.7 from the prior year. And that's the main driver of that was about $3 million of FEMA funds they had in 22, which is, you have to remember when we're talking about this report, we're talking about the federal expenditures in the current year. Caveat, everything except FEMA. There's no telling when FEMA actually shows up on the report. So it was funds that had been expended in 2021 mostly and showed up on 2022 due to the work project when it's required to be put on there. So the reduction in federal funds related to FEMA from the prior year. So continuing on page 6 of that smaller one, this is a breakout of all the federal funds in the current year. And you see that the sizable one, when I mentioned the major program, is the Eastern Shore MPO, totaling $800,000. That was the major federal program in the 2023 audit. The ALDOT portion up there to the right was made up primarily of the North Section Street, about $507,000 of the total $600. The remainder of that was Gayfer Avenue for 2023. The other that you see there was made up of ALEA. I think that's a lot of people call that the Bulletproof Vest program, but about $49,000. And then the Gulf of Mexico Energy Security of $65,000, and Gulf Restore make up that other that you see there of about $154,000. The rest are listed by the federal program, the Gulf Coast Oil Spill Impact Program of $362. ALDOT, this is related to the airport improvement of about $294, and COVID relief funds of about $198,000, and that brings us back up to the major program. So like I said, that's page 6 of that smaller 10-page report, the Uniform Guidance and Financial Control Report. So the next slide takes us back to the handout, and it's the required communications. There's actually a tab in that handout for the required communications, and it's our communication to you. We talk about expressing opinion on the financial statements. We talk about whether the scope and timing of the audit that was communicated to you in the planning letter changed. It did not change with respect to the city. It talks about significant accounting policies, and it also talks about new accounting policies adopted or assessed throughout the year. In this case, that letter included discussion of 96, GASB 96, which was a software, the new GASB standard related to software. The city assessed that, and it did not impact the financial statements, and so therefore they were not required to move forward on that and disclose anything beyond the scope of their assessment on that. If there were corrected and uncorrected misstatements, we would talk about there. If there were any difficulties with management, that's where we would talk about them. There were none. They provided us representations on March 8th, the day of issue. If there were any accounting principles or anything there, that's where we would discuss that as well. So the next tab moves on to the other communication letter that's normally called the communication of material weaknesses and significant deficiencies. A material weakness is a deficiency in internal control such that a user of the financial statement, if that was part of it, could misinterpret the financial statements as they stand. Significant deficiency is something that's less significant than that, but would require disclosure should we see it to the users of the financial statements or to governance. Each one of them there, you see that you don't say anything positive during audit. All you get to say is none reported. That's what you get to say in case that there was something that we didn't see during the course of the audit, but there was no material weakness or significant deficiency reported in the 2023 audit. There always is kudos. It takes a great management team to have that happen, but we always caveat it by saying even the best, regardless of whether you have one this year, it doesn't mean when you have one in a coming year that you have done something wrong. It just means that with the number of transactions and as much that goes through an organization the size of the city, there are going to be things that happen in the past. So we've had clients who have a year when they don't have one, and all of a sudden they think there shouldn't be anymore. And so we're quick to caveat that with great job. But so with that, this next slide describes the history of findings of the material weaknesses and significant deficiencies over the past 4 years. And you see that it has been slowly reducing. There hasn't been a material weakness in the last 4 years, and the significant deficiencies, the city has been steadily taking the action, recommendations on our part, and their own actions to address the issues that came of those. And in 2023, there were no issues reported. With that, we're happy to answer any questions.
Council.
Great audit.
It's a great audit.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, and really, thanks to
Kim,
Kim and her
that's right.
staff for
That's right.
excellent work, and the mayor and her staff for
Yeah,
the excellent
certainly.
work.
Yeah, great job. Thank you guys as usual. Kim and accounting team, great job. Yeah. Okay. Agenda item number 5 is Ms. Kim. It's a 6 months financial review.
Yes, lean into this. And I do want to thank this team that we have here, doing this audit. It takes a huge team. It takes all in leadership team, because there's just a lot of information we have to put together. So it's, very rewarding to be able to see this audit this year. And so leading into this 6-month review, I just want to hit some highlights. I know we're pushed on some time, but I just want you to see, comparing to where our cash balance was last year at this time, total citywide. We've gone down, but you can actually just pinpoint that down to the water and sewer department. You can see we're using the cash for their capital projects. So that's where you can really see significant, decrease, citywide with the cash. Do you have any questions on that?
It actually doesn't look as bad as I thought it may work.
Yeah.
It may look as the way we've been burning through cash to keep up with the water and sewer.
Yeah, that's right. This next one, just talk about how the revenues are, compared. Our sales tax currently right now, we have an increase over last year of 5.2%. I'm just starting to see a little bit of stability, across the board with the sales tax. Simplified seller's use tax, which is Amazon tax, it's up 21%. The lodging tax is an increase right now of 3.8. So again, I think we're starting to see some stability. I still think we're still good compared to budget, because I really budget at 3%. So do y'all have any questions on those revenues? And then next, this is just the graphs, so you can see it on the graphs, where our, how the sales tax is. And you gotta realize, like, what you're seeing is March, those are February sales, but we collected in March. Simplified seller's use tax. On that simplified seller's use tax, it did a dip, and I did go out there to look at the state. The state does collections. I could look at where the state is as a whole, and the state did show a decrease on theirs too. So, we get a percentage from the state. So it is, but when I look at April's number's back up. So, I just don't know if there was something that the state didn't collect, or from a vendor that was late paying the state that could have brought this down.
Kim, can I back up? Can I back up, Council President?
Yes, sir,
Can you back up to sales tax revenue?
Yes.
I think I may have brought this up, I just bring it up in the meeting. And I don't know exactly when they would be reported, if it would be March or April, but when I look at our March numbers and our April numbers, I don't, unless it's in April, and that's the uptick from the Arts and Crafts Festival.
So
If we supposedly have 300,000 people, you'd think that thing would go off the charts that much.
Well, you would see it in April, because they should be reporting in March, their sales in March. The cash would actually come in April. So those vendors that, whatever their sales was through the end of March, they would be due to the state April 20th. So we should start seeing, and you can see on
Yeah.
the graphs
I see a
historically.
steep increase from March to April.
Every
Maybe
time.
maybe that
And it's-
is what
and
we're
it's-
It's
seeing
only a
there.
couple days, and it's on par with the summer months, so.
Yeah, and that uptick is very consistent,
Yeah.
yeah, throughout the years.
Yeah, that's the big driver that you'll have.
Yeah, these trends are real consistent, and then you
Yeah,
look at
they really are.
You look at the lodging one during COVID.
Yeah.
It just falls off a cliff.
Yeah, we go to lodging, and yeah, you can see what happened in COVID with the lodging. So next is just to see comparative our revenues from last year at this time to this year. We're up right a little over 2 million. You can see that in property tax. We budgeted that appropriate to, these are numbers that are coming from the Revenue Commission for Baldwin County. You can see where the local taxes are, which is what we just went over, the sales tax, lodging tax. So, you know, I think we're on track. We're continuing to stay on track compared to budget. Do you have any questions on these?
Yep.
And here where you can see, you know, where we are for the general fund at this point in time, you know, compared to last year. We have an excess, you know, of 7 million, a little less than where we were last year, but our expenditures are up. We did budget, some, you know, capital in the Parks Department, and so that's where you're seeing. And then our payroll, you know, is up more than what it was last year this time, too. Do you have any questions there?
We're on track.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, a little bit.
Yes. So here's as a department, in each department where you can see their expenditures. And, you know, most you see, just eyeballing right there, most you're seeing, you should see around 50% expenditures. And you can see where, if you look at the bottom, which is recreation, you know, recreation had a lot of capital improvements, and so those are still being worked on. And so that's, you know, that's where kind of a variance is with the recreation department. I'm going to go to the next page to try to finish up. And you can really just kind of see where we are as a total for the is 61%. And you have like the debt service you see there. That's the $300,000 that's paid out to the school board. That's usually done in June.
So this is
that
our,
the final
this is
payment?
our final payment, guys. I just left the meeting, but go ahead, Kim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we're still sitting good for as a 6-month comparing to our budget. All departments are doing a great job. And then this where you can see where we budgeted for capital improvements and capital equipment. You know, we're still waiting on a lot of equipment to come in and some projects to be completed. You have any questions there?
Making a lot of interest while we're waiting to spend it, aren't we?
And here's the salaries, where we are with salaries. You know, you can see compared to where we were last year in some departments to this year, we're up. Compared to budget, you can see majority of departments are still at that 50% range. Have any questions there? I'll go to the next slide. And then on the next slide, you can see we're at 54% compared to budget. And so as general fund as a whole, we're still doing good. You know, when we did this budget, you know, Mayor did say at 6 months we may have to come back, but we're holding steady on, we're watching it. We watch it. I sent a report to Mayor and to the department at the end of every month after the last payroll. So they're looking at it. And we're discussing it about every month.
You were reminding how we budgeted for that this year.
Yep. We had budgeted a flat from the previous year's budget. So this was going to be a year that we were going to see where we were.
Thank you.
And that's the utilities. So the utilities, let's look, we're starting out with natural gas, and natural gas is pretty flat from last year to this year. And the expense is down, and what we see on the expenses too depends on the projects, but if we're looking at the cost of energy, sometimes that cost of energy is based on what it's called the fuel cost. Sometimes can go up and down, but our revenues will go up and down too with that. But gas is doing good right now. And There's still, if you can look down there at the capital improvements, those were the projects that's going on, and they're still working through those projects. Do you have any question on natural gas? Electric, same thing, they're down a little bit, and it just has to do with the usage of the electricity. And then the cost is down too, so we're still doing good there. And the capital improvements, they're still working on those projects. Water, we're continuing to do projects. You see that often as we come to every meeting with proven projects. A caveat on this, in the budget that you would see, it was for $15 million. We budgeted $15 million for revenue to come in, which was the loan that we actually did last month. So you can see that's kind of caveat in that revenue. And now that the funding is there, it's going to help continue to pay for those projects.
Is that factored into the net income on the water? Because that number doesn't add up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an error.
Yeah, it should be 1.
No, that's an error. It should have been negative right there.
Yeah.
A negative loss. Sorry about that. And then you can just see on the capital projects, there's still, we have still a lot to complete. Do you have any questions there? We get into wastewater. We budgeted, again, the line of credit, and we received a loan. You can see that we continue, we still have projects that we're still working on. That was budgeted. Do you have any questions on this one?
And all that excess is put in the proper account right now?
It is,
It's not
yes.
being spent, it's collecting interest?
That is correct. It's earning 4.75%.
How much?
4.75%.
Thank you.
And we borrowed it at,
410.
Wow. Extra few billion there, be all right, wouldn't we pay for everything?
So he was sitting in there.
Yeah. And sanitation, pretty flat, and you've seen that from the audit too, that sanitation's pretty flat. We're, negative right now, but hopefully by the end of the year, we'll balance out. We had some equipment that we purchased, so hopefully that will balance out. You have any questions on sanitation? And then here's utility salaries. And so you can see right there, compared to budget, we're running at that 50% where we should be at this time. And then, you have any questions?
Nope. All right. Yep, thank
All
you,
right.
Kim.
Thank you so much.
That's good. All right, guys, we got to move quick here. We got committee updates?
none for me.
Nope.
None for me as well. All right, department heads for the agenda items. You may call you. I will call you. Don't be scared.
I have agenda item number 20, which is the Pecan Street building roof.
I saw some different numbers on this. I saw 242 something.
So
I
there
saw a
was
low
there was
budget of
calcu-
211, but.
Yeah, there was a calculation error in
That's-
the bid, the winning bidders' numbers, and we called him and confirmed him he wanted to honor what the actual
That's what I,
numbers
yeah.
were, and he confirmed that he wanted to follow through with it, so.
So we're going to do the 211, which was the low bid, and not the 240
Yes,
something that I
sir.
saw.
When the
All right?
calculation is in error in our favor, we always make sure.
God bless you. Yeah, but I did see that, so I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure I ask you about that for public purposes. All right.
I'm trying to find it real quick.
It's in the
Is that
tab,
a-
look at the
no,
bid
no.
tabulation.
I'm trying to find if it's budgeted item or not.
It was
This is
budgeted, was not budgeted enough.
It was
But it was
under
budgeted.
or over.
It was over what we budgeted.
Yes.
You didn't go to the school of Richard Johnson estimating, did you?
I did not.
He's laughing. That's not to say he doesn't know what he's doing. That's to say Richard always overestimates, so he comes in under budget.
On that agenda, I had actually put on there to, we have some excess interest that was earned in the general fund, and to do a transfer of funds to go over to the water department to pay for that roof, so that we would have enough funds.
Why is the bid so much significantly higher than the amount of budgeted?
Or less.
An estimate that I did was inaccurate.
Okay.
Is the best explanation that I have for you.
Okay. The price didn't go up.
The price
tremendously.
is, I put the estimate together last year, this time, whenever we were putting together the budget.
Yeah.
And whenever we passed the budget, didn't go back in and revamp the number.
Yeah,
Okay.
makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, thank you, George.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Council President, one thing too to take note of is you see how many bidders we had. So we
I-
know we're getting a competitive
It
bid.
was 10, I counted them, there were 10 bidders. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's good. That drives the number down. That's what it's supposed to look like, in my opinion.
Yes, Council, and I know Mayor and all of us has had a lot of discussion about this, but item number 16, I'm working with Darrell on a change order. This is our force main project that is heading up to the intersection of State Route 104 and 181. You know, as you know, we're trying to stay ahead of the growth, and this is an opportunity to shorten that contract for about 90 days, so be glad to answer any questions on that. Also, and I will bask in Councilman Burrell's glory on item number 19. This is the budgeted addition to the mechanical maintenance shop. It was a three-part bid. One was the new building, two was replacement of roof, and three, since the new building is going to have a crane rail put in it, we went ahead and priced what would actually get the chain hoist trolley, and all three of those items came in under budget. And we are asking to award that bid to Southern Steel Structures.
So that did include those additions?
Yes.
That bid did?
The roof was budgeted at 75,000, the building itself was 225, and we're completely, or 250, we're completely under all those.
Good work.
And then probably the most exciting one I know everybody is we've got the two projects for Flying Creek Nature Preserve. 21 is the pedestrian project, tunnel project, which is under Veterans Drive, and we are recommending awarding that to LMK Construction. The bigger of the two projects is the Total Park project, and yes, it is over budget. The good news is it will span over 2 budget years, so we have already made a commitment to plan for that so that that is captured, so that we can keep Kim in our good graces. So I don't always hit the mark, Councilman Burrell. Sometimes I do swing and miss.
So disappointing.
But feel good about both of the contractors, Stagner on the park project and L&K on the pedestrian tunnel, and we are recommending awarding those projects. Be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Okay, so I've got the ordinance on number 8, which is just up for the first read and previously discussed. Then I have resolution items number 11 and 12. They almost mirror each other, so 11 is requesting to hire an assistant water superintendent to allow the current assistant water superintendent, who's retiring June 30th, 2024, to work together and train the new employee prior to retirement. The temporary position would expire upon the retirement of the current assistant water superintendent. Similarly, requesting to hire an assistant wastewater superintendent to allow the current assistant wastewater superintendent, who's retiring July 31st, 24, to work together and train the new employee prior to retirement. Temporary position would expire upon the retirement of the current assistant wastewater superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hannah.
Good evening.
Hello, Darrell.
I've got a couple of them. I'll start with number 13 is to award Krebs a not-to-exceed amount for tank number 3 at Water Treatment Plant 3 for the engineering fees. And this is a budgeted item.
Darrell, what are they painting?
They're painting the tank. They're gonna do construction oversight
Okay.
of
They
the.
say usually a water tower paint job is about $1 million.
Yeah, so I saw that was one of the questions. I
So
had.
it's
this is
a
just
lot smaller tank. It's not as big as the ones at Walmart or next to the school.
But this is just for, number 13 is just for engineering, correct?
This is just the fees.
This is just engineering.
Right.
So what was, what,
It will.
I said 10%, so I said 550.
So.
Because that's 55.
So,
That'd be-
I got you.
Yeah.
That's the.
That's the question you was looking for.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
That answers it.
Yep, thank you, yes.
Okay. Any more questions on that one? Okay. Number 14 is to award Hemp Hill Construction to construct the new doghouse lift station pump at $1,292,000. Those are grant
Those
funded.
are, yeah, those are money we're getting back, that's right, I saw that. Mhm.
These are some $80,000 grants.
Mhm. Those are the two that you had
Nope,
there?
I've got more.
Okay, go ahead.
I always have more.
No, we should call you more.
Number 15 is just to submit our MWPP report for 2023 to ADEM. It's complete.
And that, just to give the public a little bit of information, Darrell, that's for our sanitary system overflows.
Right, so that's our wastewater system, that's
Yep.
SSOs,
Yep.
that's all the data that has been recorded at the wastewater treatment plant.
Very good. That keeps us in compliance, correct? Yep. All right.
All right, number 17, we'd like to ask the council to reject all bids for the wastewater treatment plant screening equipment. We received only one bid, actually two came in, but one was late. No fault of them, it was a shipping error, but we would like to reject the bids so that we could receive more and do our due diligence and get the best price.
All right, good job, thank you.
And that's all I've got.
All right. All right, thank you, Darrell.
Thank you.
You got any questions, Councilman Rupp? Okay.
I've got item number 23. We spoke about this briefly a couple council meetings ago. I think Councilman Burrell, you were absent that one. But we, in place of hiring a full-time employee, we're going to try out for, at least for 1 year, the professional consulting services. So it's like a go-between between the city and our Tyler Technology Products. It's instead of hiring an employee. So that basically they're going to handle all of our implementations and support cases for us.
Yeah. Have you, Jeff, do you know, I know that job paid about $53K. Were we trying to spend that amount? Or what were your?
I had one candidate initially that was way over budget.
Yes.
Then the other candidates just did not meet qualifications. It's very hard to find somebody that knows this product. And this consultant company is really familiar with Tyler products. In fact, they're a lot of the employees are ex-Tyler Technology employees. And so if we have a problem, they'll have. We're not just we don't have just one person that we can have for a resource. We have like multiple people
Okay.
with different, different specialities that we could choose from
Okay,
with this consultant company.
all right. Council, you have any questions about this?
I do have concerns over how much this will balloon over time,
Yeah.
and
Well,
just naturally, but if, we could.
has to be approved.
Start with a not to exceed and
Yeah.
see how it goes. I mean,
Sure.
it
That's what
costs
I'm
5 times what an
Yeah,
employee
well-
costs, then.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, we're just want to see at least for 1 year, see how it's going to compare to hiring a full-time employee, whether it's going to work out, and then after that, we'll reevaluate, definitely.
okay, all right. Well, we'll definitely need some more information, I guess. Okay, so yeah, we'll have to do something, because that's, to me, this seems to be like a more open-ended. I'm not going to speak about, I mean, can you give us an example of what that looks like as far as the monies is concerned? What were you thinking? It's just
So-
1 year contract?
1 year, it'll be around 40,000.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, very good. Okay, that's under,
That-
that's good.
Yeah, that was one reason why we decided to look at it,
That's
because it was
under.
less than
I
the
just wanna make
employee.
sure.
Plus,
Yeah.
we don't have to provide, office equipment or anything
Right.
like that, and just try it for a year and
It's
see if
a
it
lot less
works
than a
better
loaded
for us.
employee cost,
It
yeah.
is, correct.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I had that number.
I'm
We
sorry,
were
yes.
skating around it. Yeah, we
Yes.
kept
Sorry, I
skating around it.
misunderstood you.
Yeah, I don't know why we were skating. I was trying to make sure I wasn't missing something before I
Okay.
continued to ask these questions. So, yeah, so that makes sense to me now. Okay,
right.
thank
Thank
you,
you.
Jeff. All right. All right. Hello, Ms. Love.
Quickly,
Yes.
number 18 is to accept 2 of the ADECA energy efficiency retrofit grants that we applied for. We applied for 2, and we got both of them. So the 21.5 is going to be to replace about 80 fixtures in the wastewater treatment plant with LED lights. And then the 25,000 is going to be for the Flying Creek Nature Preserve to be able to offset some of the costs that we're doing for that. So,
Okay, very good. All right. Okay, guys. Thank you, Ms. Love. Is that it? So number 9, we can talk about that. Let's go ahead and talk
What
about
about
it.
number 24?
Number 24, who has 24?
I've got 24.
Okay, come on, Chief.
So what we're asking here is procurement for purchasing our upgraded camera system. That's for our body-worn cameras and our in-car cameras. And in addition to that, to transfer some money from capital purchases and our capital improvements. We actually over budgeted last year 91,000 on some equipment that was already purchased. It was a rollover. So we have that available in the capital purchases, along with the 35,000 that was in capital improvements. So we're just asking to reallocate that so that we can purchase the upgraded system.
What does that upgrade consist of? I mean, you say 3 cameras and then an upgrade, and it's
Well, this
$124,000.
is-
You kind of, it's easy to get focused on the cameras. They're probably not very much of that number at all. What does that upgrade?
Well, that's
entail?
going to be the in-car cameras and the body cameras that go together. What happened was Motorola actually bought out WatchGuard, and WatchGuard is our current system. The products are no longer available under WatchGuard, so we had to move forward.
So you're actually getting all new equipment, but then you're just adding 3 to the quantity that you had. Is
That is
right?
correct.
I got you. That makes sense. Okay. Very good.
So the equipment that we're getting is similar to what we had? It's just a
Yes,
different.
it is. It's just an
different
upgraded,
camera. Yep.
upgraded.
All right, thank you, Chief. All right. Yep. The money was already there. Final adoption ordinance number 7. Number 7, Mayor, is just a franchise agreement with AT&T. Who?
It's with DirecTV.
With,
AT&T or DirecTV, correct.
yes.
And the indemnification language in it is just more protective of the city. It's an upgrade. It's just a review that was done and just recommended by our telecom consultant to do this. So Yeah, this is the upgrade. that
Okay,
we're-
yeah,
or the
nothing changed.
change
I
that
saw
we're
it was
asking
still the
for, amendment.
5% on the revenue, so.
That's correct.
We're good, yeah. All right, very good. And number 8. We did number 8 is Hannah. Okay, number 9, guys. Number 9 is, this is, well, I guess why everybody is here is for the ordinance. Number 9 is look at or to remove, it says to remove our, change our procedure by removing our public participation. This is something that, as the president, that I put on for us to have an opportunity to speak about with our last council meeting where we had the two sides talking. And as that meeting went on, there were some things that I saw in that meeting that were a little bit out of order, and I thought that we could clean it up. My position on removing it was never to stop the community from being able to participate and to speak their mind, but to allow us to have an opportunity to speak in public about the organization of our procedures and how we will run our business. During that time, we were not even allowed to finish our business because the time of listening to people patiently and giving all people from both sides the opportunity to speak, we did not complete our business. It was not very time efficient. So be that as it may, I decided to put this on here so that we can have an opportunity to see how we could possibly reorganize that. One of the things that bothered me was that we had a lot of patrons in our city council meeting that was not even constituents of ours, and that were a part of the disorder from different places. And then we had a lot of redundancy, which I don't mind. But I thought that if we could order that a little bit better, as far as possibly not removing it, but having people sign in to know that they are a part of Fairhope community and present themselves on the topic that they want to speak about, that we would get a little bit more organization and allow ourselves to complete the business that we have as far as our job as handling the business of Fairhope as the business is concerned. Council, your thoughts on this?
Well, prior to me being on the council in 2012, there was only a public participation at the end of the meeting, and you had to sign up. And at the very first meeting, organizational meeting that we had in 2012, I was elected council president, and we elected to add public participation on agenda items as well, because it didn't make sense to have somebody, they may have a comment about an agenda item, they don't get heard until after it's been voted up or down. So we thought it was a good idea to put it, another public participation at the beginning of the agenda and then have another session at the end. We also removed the fact that you had to sign in to speak. A lot of times at the last minute, people don't get word that something's on the agenda. They don't get a chance to sign up, therefore they don't get a chance to be heard. So, Council President, with all due respect, I was a little surprised that this was on here when I found out last week, but I'm adamantly opposed to changing it whatsoever.
I'm not in favor of changing the current structure. I think that part of the job, I guess, sometimes you're gonna have long meetings and opposing sides are gonna just be going back and forth with some redundant comments. But I think that the current structure is good. I think people have a right to be heard, and I like the fact that we have one opportunity to speak directly to agenda items, and then we get on with our business, and then at the end, there's an opportunity for people to come back and address the council with anything that may be on their mind. So, yeah, I wouldn't be in favor of changing it if there's a way to make things more efficient and move along, but I also agree with Councilman Burrell on the sign up. You know, sometimes people just find out about something 20 minutes before the council meeting, and I wouldn't want to restrict anybody from being able to show up and speak on a topic they felt was important. I would suggest we, I guess, just scrap this, pull it from the agenda, or whatever y'all had in mind.
Yeah, we can remove it. This is just something that we needed to talk about as far as having, you know, the volume, when we have volume like that, there's times when we have volume, you know, is there any type of organizational things that we can do to make it more efficient when we have that type of volume? That's what the discussion is about. The discussion is not about removing the opportunity for people to speak. The discussion is to organize it so that when we have volume like we did, that we can have the volume in concert with moving on with the business that we have to attend to.
Couple of things, if I may expand on that. One, I want to go back to one of your comments that, you know, we are here to conduct business, and I've had somebody suggest to me, well, what about limiting it to citizens? Well, we have all manners of people that have business in the city that aren't citizens, and I don't think we can restrict it to people that are just voting members or even live in 36532 area code. You may live in Detroit and have property here that some of our actions affect. And we could go on and on with examples about that, but also there's been times where I've seen, even prior to my time on the council, where the council would say, okay, you know, everybody that's for or against whatever the item may be or the issue may be, have one spokesperson. But you know, I like the fact that we're very liberal in letting people speak, because you know, everybody on one side of an issue, they may just want to add to what someone said with a different reason that they are for or opposed to something. And so I want to give them the opportunity to speak. Now, I think that you probably within your right to say if you're going to repeat what someone else has said, then it's a tough job to say, okay, please don't repeat what everyone said. But you know, at the same time, that's where you have to tread with caution and let everybody have a say.
All right. So we can amend the agenda, we can take it off, we can remove it from the.
Yeah, we're still in the work session. So
I know,
you
that's
could
what I'm trying to tell you, we just remove it, I'm
you could
asking.
technically
We
remove
can
it
just remove it
now.
from the
Just
agenda.
remove it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If everybody's okay with that, we'll just take it off the agenda.
Yes, sir.
All right, very good, very good. Okay,
And can we
guys.
say also that that's not being taken off so that we can take it up in 2 weeks or a month or 6 weeks, that it's being taken off, as far as I'm concerned, forever?
Well, forever,
I
Jack,
mean,
it's not
forever is a
real.
long time. but
Yeah.
For the,
Perpetuity.
for the foreseeable future.
Perpetuity is hard to determine. All right, so, yeah, we'll remove it off the agenda, we'll amend the agenda, if someone make a motion to do that, and we'll move forward. All right, guys, I think we've covered, we're gonna take a 3-minute break, and you come back and have our city council meeting. Thank you. It's a work session.